was damp, cold, and generally fairly grim. A perfect day to get outdoors. Why? Less people about for one. I like people, don't get me wrong, but I also enjoy solitude, my own company. I also like to bring you along for the ride, to enjoy these mini adventures with me, just me, you, and our beautiful surroundings. Today's destination was Butser Hill in Hampshire, not too far from my home, so a great place to start. And when I say start, I mean this is all fairly new to me. I've decided at my vintage that I need to start to redouble my efforts with regards looking after myself, both in body and in mind. It makes perfect sense that I merged my love of the outdoors with a new fitness regime and decided I'd document my journey here for you. Now for those that don't know, Butser is no mountain, far from it, a mediocre hill at best, but for me is a challenge, a stepping stone, a great place to start. And it just so happens that it's gorgeous up there too. The thinking is that the more I do this, the easier it will become, and then I can move on to something even more challenging, and so on and so forth. It's not just walking and hiking either. I've begun to assemble the kit to do some wild camping once the weather improves, perhaps towards April. My daughter is keen also, so when time and weather permits, we can embark upon father and daughter adventures too, and of course bring you along for the ride. So as I said before, damp and grim, that was the start to the day. But after lunch it was forecast to improve. I hadn't got very deep into the walk when the sky started to look somewhat more friendly. The dark grey mass above me was beginning to show signs of breaking up. We even caught a glimpse of the sun. Perhaps I'd be spoilt just as I reached the summit. Okay, I know it's not a summit, just humour me. The thing with Butser is that you can't see the top until you reach the top. You frequently see ridges that look like the top, only to reach them and realise you're still nowhere near. And it gets steeper the further up you go. Well, it seems that way anyway. Perhaps it's the old leg starting to give up, starting to flag about halfway. The views though, incredible early on, is a good excuse to stop for a minute every so often, just to stop and admire the view behind you. But the cool thing is that it gets better the higher you go. The sun broke through more, but the clouds that were there looked dark. Perhaps it would rain, perhaps we'd see a rainbow. I pressed on, my legs feeling heavier and heavier, my shoes felt like lead. But the stops replenished energy levels, and before too long I could see the gate, the top gate, the one that says you've made it. After a brief lean to take in the breathtaking view, you have to have a good lean when you come to such gates, I pushed on in search of a spot to have a snack and a drink. My reward for getting to the top in one piece. From the top you can see a long way, predominantly south. You can see all the way to the Solent and beyond to the Isle of Wight. The camera doesn't do it justice, but it gives you a decent idea of how lovely it is up there. While searching for a spot to stop, I noticed a large dark cloud looming. Rain for sure, so a spot was chosen, and just as I finished treading in that last peg, the heavens opened. I climbed inside, and as the rain lashed against the tarp, I began assembling the stove. It was noodles for lunch, and not just any noodles. These are posh noodles, slightly more expensive than pot noodles, and slightly more work, but well worth it. This particular one was yakisobe chicken. That and the teriyaki ones are my favourites. When I start to camp overnight, I'll get more adventurous with the food, but for now, simple meals like noodles are perfect. It's something warm at least, and the kit doesn't take up too much room in my small bag. After refreshments, it was time to be leaving. The sun was already well into its descent behind the hills, and I wanted to get home before tea time. The walk back is obviously much easier than the walk up. I actually bounced down the hill with renewed energy, smiling most of the way. I feel good when I've done my walk. This is only the second time I've done the walk, but already I feel better for it. You can see why folk call this the golden hour. The colours and shades are ridiculous. Shafts of light bounce off damp grass, making them shimmer like a million diamonds. The low winter sun can be hazardous for drivers, but for walkers enjoying the great outdoors it's mesmerising. Shortly before reaching the car park, the sun disappeared behind the hills. Darkness crept up on me and the temperature started to drop. The moon above marked the end of another glorious walk. Or is it a hike? When does a walk become a hike? I already have the next few hills earmarked, penciled in for when this one becomes easy. Maybe next time I'll take my little Jessica, or James, my boy. One thing's for sure, you'll be with me. If you made it this far, thanks so much for following my journey. This one has ended, but the big one has only just begun.